It's me!
Oh, let's do this again. Close. Touhou Cherry Blossom Perfect. Reimu, oh, your girl is the very magical essence of the star structure. Go to the forward the game. I read that text in that little window once, and that's pretty much what it said. Now, in fact, let's get a closer look at what exactly it said. There we are. That's it. That's what it says right there. This game is curtain fire shooting game. Girls do their best now and are preparing. Please watch warmly until it is ready. You will wonder at the snowy paradise, and you look at what must be hidden. Yeah, that's what you get when you actually read what it says there, in the 2 seconds allotted to you to do so. Well, this game was made in 2002, I discovered. Quite old. I'm surprised how old it is, considering it's not bad. So maybe back then it would have taken like 5 minutes to load this. I don't know. But it doesn't anymore. So I'm back after 2 days of 2 hours worth of practice maybe. And I'm ready to take on the Touhou Perfect Cherry Blossom again on Lunatic level with what's her face, Rema. With Rema. And now we do it again. I'm not going to win, I'll say that right now, but I'm going to show off how excellent I've become at Perfect Cherry Blossom now. Because I've gotten a lot better at this game, surprisingly so. It just goes to show a little. Even in this game seems completely impossible, at least on the Lunatic level, when you first play it. But you learn the tricks and things, and it starts to become surprisingly manageable. Certainly, the thing that helps most of all is the smallness of your hitbox, which is not apparent at all when you're starting out with this game. It's ludicrously small, and you've got much. When you start playing this game, you see all these balls coming towards you, all these balls and diamonds and triangles, and you're just having a nightmare. You just think, how could you possibly deal with these? And you panic, and you run into one and think that was impossible. But actually, you find out, once you get some confidence in yourself and you learn how small the hitbox is, then it becomes surprisingly manageable. It's still completely insanely hard. This is still an incredibly difficult game. But it's not as difficult as it looks like it is when you first play it, or see someone else playing it, more importantly. So if you're afraid of these Touhou games, because of how devilishly hard they are, I would encourage you to not be afraid of them, at the very least. You don't have to play them, but I wouldn't be so afraid of them, because they're not as terrifying as they appear at first glance. And it didn't even take me terribly long to get some skill with it. You know? Like, look at this, I haven't died once. And I've used one of those bombs. I'm going to use the bomb to suck up all those powers, because I've not explained a thing about this stuff yet. All the things I've learned in this game playing it now. The enclosed instruction book doesn't bother to tell you anything. That enclosed instruction book that was all of 5 sentences telling me to go to the prologue. This is ridiculous! They're supposed to be asleep at this season of the year.
Don't you mean in spring one sleeps a sleep that knows no dawn?
Yeah, whatever. Isn't it time for your kind's eternal rest?
Do humans not sleep during winter like the mammals that they are?
Some do. I don't. Wasn't she American a second ago?
Then I'll help you sleep a peaceful, deep sleep.
I can't sleep if you don't turn up the heat a bit.
If you could only sleep in warm weather, then you're like us and the asabi flowers.
Appalling language, man. I'm not saying that. I never swear, even the most minor of infractious swear words. I'll have to edit that last line out. But anyway, Touhou. So what I've learned, first of all, one of the first things I've learned from watching a demo, actually, is that you can slow yourself down with this. If I press one of the buttons, she goes a lot slower. She puts those red and white yin-yang balls in front of her, and you move slower, which is incredibly important to be able to deal these incredibly precisely dodged, precise ball arrangements. Or you're just gonna rocket into one accidentally and hit it without this slowdown. So that's incredibly important. Also, you don't have to worry too much about aiming, because she automatically, her shots home in on the enemy, or at least they do after they've been powered up a bit, which is what those red P squares are for that I collect. all those coloured squares that I can pick up have values. They've got meanings. The red ones are power-ups. They increase the power. And the power is something you can see on the right-hand side of the screen. There's a power number. You can get a maximum power of somewhere around about 130. I don't know exactly what the max is, but there's a max. Those red peas, they're good. The big red peas are worth 10, the small ones are worth 1. And they're all important, though. The blue squares that you can pick up are... they contribute points towards getting an extra life. There's a point thing, says 26 out of 50 over there. I shouldn't have looked at that, but I did. But I'm alive. Once you get 50, then you get an extra life. And then after that, the point thing, the max point you need to get is like 100. So you got to get from 50 up to 125 or something. Then you get the next life. The point max and the point number resets when you get a game over. Anyway, every life gives you 3 bombs to use. And when you use a bomb, what it does is that it makes you invincible for a bit. And you really want to use the bombs when you're strongly suspicious that you're going to die. Which is a bit unfortunate because that is pretty much all of the time in this game. You spend 90% of your time thinking you're about to die, but you just barely find a way to not die. So it's kind of a hard thing to decide when to use these bombs and when to try and save them. Because a lot of the time when you want to use one of these bombs, you can actually weave your way around it. And it would have been a waste. But then sometimes, quite a lot of the time in fact, the opposite happens. You think that you can make it through a thing, but then suddenly a ball appears out of nowhere that you didn't see coming and kills you. Or you misjudged the hitbox slightly and hit something that you thought you were dodging. And then you've just lost all 3 of those bombs and you've lost an extra life. You know? When you lose a life, then, like, if you hadn't used any of your bombs for that life, you don't get those bombs added to your next life or anything, you just lose them all. The next life just starts with the default 3 bombs, no matter what. So use up all your bombs before you die. Like I had successfully done there. When you die, you lose some of your power, and I failed to get it back. That's okay. The power system's kind of strange, though, because I'm at max power now. I'm in all systems full power mode there. But I don't know what exact use that is, because... Well, not what I mean. What I mean to say is that I don't know why the power system's here, because after you finish the first level, you're probably going to get to max power, and then from then on, you're always going to be near to the maximum possible power for the rest of the game. Supernatural border, that's invincibility. I don't know what triggers it, and I don't know exactly how it works, so I never actually feel safe, because sometimes I think I'm invincible, but then I can actually get hit anyway, so I don't know what gives with that. Same with the bombs. The bombs normally make you invincible, but then sometimes they don't. I think there's some attacks that they just can't save you from, no matter what. One of them being the Super Mario Bros. 3 airship fire Bunsen burner things in level 4. We'll get to that.
Ah, are there houses in a place like this?
This is the end for you!
Huh? And?
Well, anyways, welcome to my rig!
The black cat of something? I don't know what that said. Our fingers are disturbingly spaced apart.
So the end of what?
The end of wanderers like you! You can't leave once you wander in! Mario, I'm the fantastic fungus!
Is that so? By the way, I hear that Mario Hager's items give you good fortune if you take them home.
Yeah, that's true!
Then let the plundering begin.
Yeah, our hero is a complete scrupulous thief.
What? This is Mario! Get out of here now!
So what happened to you can't leave once you wander in?
Ho ho ho. I don't get these... What, so Reimu has a lot of conversations with these bosses. Like a big conversation at the end of every level. Sometimes in the middle of a level as well. But they're all pointless. There's not much of a story to this game. There's a place called... What was it? What did I say in the first part? We're all in this place called... This magical, mysterious place called... The ugly modern bed... No, the ugly modern coat rack. Which got sealed off by an army of Richard Dawkinses at some point. When they decided that it didn't exist, even though they apparently believed it existed enough to seal it off. I didn't quite understand that tutorial, but that happened, and then all the baby strollers and beds were living in conflict with each other. The beds are actually humans, and the baby strollers are the monster yukai things. And then all the babies did stuff and that. And what happened then? Well, then there was a... That's right, then all of a sudden it became winter. And that's a bad thing for humans to survive with. And didn't expect to survive all of that. There's a bit to be recording this time, because I messed up the recording once before. No, I didn't make it through that one. Anyway, it's become really wintry, and poor Reimu here can't survive in the winter. It's bad. It's all cold and stuff, and that's terrible. So, and there's a place in the ugly modern bed coat rack that's got spring. Except they seemed it didn't say it in that. It did not say it in the prologue, but the spring has apparently been stolen by some of these yukai. They've went and stolen the spring from the rest of the ugly modern coat rack. So now we're off to try and get the sprig back. That's the plot. But all these conversations that we have with these bosses amount to nothing at all. Except I don't think you ever learn anything about this plot. There's no plot development of any form. I think it's just Reimu here threatening to steal a bunch of good luck charms, being the nice person that she is. And all the other stuff. There's that egg there that just falls down at the start of level 3. What's it for? It's just there. Anyway. Well, I think I've done I don't know if I've done a good job, but I've done a job of explaining all the mechanics. I know that it must look... If you've never played one of these games before, then when you look at stuff like this, if you're watching me playing this, you're wondering how on earth this is possible. Well, it's more possible than it looks, is all I'll say. After like half an hour or so, you start to get some understanding of the... You start to get a bit more confident about your hitbox and where you can go. And these massive barrages of circles become more comprehensible. Your instincts sort of kick in and you start to be able to see ways around these circles. Except a lot of the time you still can't see ways around anything and you still die. But maybe I'll get better at that if I actually keep practicing this and actually complete the game. Which, like I said, for all the good job I look like I'm doing here, that's actually not going to happen. I can assure you of that. But, well... Well, first continue then. The yellow powers give you your maximum power immediately, so if you get a game over, you go straight back to max power. So the power system is meaningless, basically, after you've got up to the max the first time. When I use this bomb, I go up in front of the boss, because when you're using the bomb, it sucks up all of the projectiles. And I think it also hurts the boss if you're beside her, if you're close to her when you're using it, I think. The bomb also lasts for like several seconds. Wah. And as I said before, you don't have to worry about aiming these things, or at least not with the configuration I'm using, because your shots are homing. At the max power, it doesn't matter where you are on the screen, you're always going to be hitting the enemies. Just so don't worry about that. Although there is an alternative weapon set you can use, which doesn't home in at all, and you do have to aim. I couldn't spot a difference. I didn't notice a difference between that and this when I was playing. I think maybe it's a little stronger, but if it is, then it's not much stronger. Anyway, so what's this woman again? Of course not. Well then bye. Hey, at last, old friend. You've good, whatever, old life, mad. Hey, 57.285,7,000% more, whatever, something. Maths joke there. Oh, I thought I had a bomb, but I didn't. I was about to use it, but no. Well, I've got bombs now. Oh dear. Ran straight into that. But... well, yeah, I like to use these bombs when I'm feeling threatened. Like I say, I always feel threatened, but I feel more threatened sometimes than I do other times. Like right there, that looked pretty bad, but I found a way. One of the biggest flaws, though, I have with this game, I'm not in the business of criticising stuff most of the time, but if I had to criticise this game, I would say that it's not clear where exactly your hitbox is. I still don't... I've got some rough idea of where I need to stop. I've got some idea of where I need to avoid being hit in order not to get damaged. But I still don't know exactly where that is. I don't know which part of Reimu's very large body here will take damage if she gets hit. And that leads to a lot of avoidable deaths, I find. There's plenty of times when I thought I had manoeuvred correctly, but it turns out her hitbox was somewhere different from where I thought it was. Now these dolls appear on one side of the screen, and you've got to try and get over to the other side, because dolls come from the side that you're not... Well, dolls keep appearing on each side, and you've got to avoid the side that they're about to appear on next, and that means you've got to wade through the side that is firing the other ones. It's all very hard. If you can... Whoa! I tried playing this game on one of the easier difficulties. I finished it on normal mode, only to find that in order to get the good ending, you've got to complete it in one continue, which I wasn't even able to do on easy mode, so I'm not terribly sure how much chance there is of that happening for me on the lunatic mode, but we'll see. But at least this I'm enjoying this game. I'm very pleased. It's free, and it's very old, so I'm very glad. I would consider playing the other 60,000 games in this series, but I'm not sure. I get the feeling this is a bit of a you've seen one, you've seen them all sort of deal. I think I'd get tired of it. I tend to get bored of a genre. That's the thing with me. I tended never to get into sequels much. Well, I've tended to always drift away from series when they get loads of sequels that are all the same. I've never really cared much for playing the same basic game with different level layouts and stuff. And if that's what this series is, then I don't know if I'd like it. Although I know there are other genres this series has covered, like there's a Castlevania-inspired one. And I don't know if there's anything else, actually. There's a Mega Man one, I think. But Mega Man himself is a good example of a series where there's like a million games that are all just the same game with different levels. Warmth of spring, were you referring to the cherry petals? Were you gathering them without knowing it? No, I mean yes, no, I mean no. Oh, that was it. That was the cutscene. There's a graze counter on the right-hand side of the screen. You notice graze. That goes up when your sprite gets brushed by a projectile that doesn't actually hit your tiny little hitbox. And I don't have a clue what on earth it does either. It doesn't seem to do anything. I've not noticed an effect from that graze. But there must be one, because there's a character select at the start of this that I discovered accidentally, just before this recording. And some of the characters one of them had a higher graze rate. So it obviously means something. Well, actually, I just noticed there, at the end of that level, that the graze was counted towards the points. So if you're in the business of high scores, then it'll help you with that. Whoa. Well, the next continue then. Oh no, I've got to get those maximum full powers. I suppose if you miss the full power mode things, you won't get your full power back after you hit a game over. But there's really no reason for that to happen most of the time. Oh, I pressed the wrong button, but I still survived somehow. Bullet Thunder Basement Radiators is right. Well, yeah, I forgot to mention as well, I discovered you could set the lives to 5 instead of 3, which I certainly did. And it gives you a small penalty to your score at the end of each level, but again, That really does not matter to me. Oh, blast. Right. Jeez Louise, mate. One person created this game, Zun. Created the game and wrote all the music. And I believe drew all of the stuff to be drawn as well. It's quite impressive. I wonder when the English translation of this came out, because I never heard of this series until at least the YouTube days, 2007 or so. But this was made 5 years before that. And I was on the internet back then. If this had been available to download for free and play, I'm sure I would have found out about it. Well, maybe not actually, but I wonder if this didn't come out to the English places until later. But maybe I should get more of the games in this series, because they are free after all. And I'm a Scottish cheapskate. If you've ever wondered, folks, that stereotype about Scottish people being misers is not actually true, I think. But I am one. It's certainly true for me. I don't pay 1 penny more than I have to for anything. Part of the reason why advertising and stuff does not work on me at all. Why I never really get like the buying of things. I've never felt much of a need to buy stuff most of the time. Even as a small child, I was very careful about my purchases. That's just my nature, I suppose. I remember one time when I was 11 years old or so, in a game store, wanting to buy a game, but they didn't have any that were well reviewed, and there was one that got like 80% in a magazine, and I spent 5 minutes pondering over the dilemma of whether to buy this rather poor game to have one at all, or save the money for later. And in the end I didn't buy it, which I thought was a very mature decision. It was Blast Core, or Blast Corps. Or maybe I should have left the text to run, but I'll read out all the cutscenes if I ever get good enough at this game to complete it. Which will be the next episode, if there is one. But anyway, this is a string-free tet of strings and musical instrument players who are all female, which I didn't need to say because everybody is female in this series. I don't know whether the creator of this is female, Zun, but if they're not, then I wonder what the reason is that everybody's female. It's an interesting thing. Oh, I got blindsided there, I didn't see those. Although, could you really blame me? Look at how those blue projectiles coming out at the bottom of the screen, they blend in with the background. Uh-oh. Oh, I didn't die somehow. Is there anything I have not explained? I think at this point it's just a matter of playing the game. Spirit, Sign, Fantasy, Sign, Soul. What? Your eyes kind of naturally come to make sense of what's coming towards you. They sort of fixate on a little area around the girl's sprite, and they see what's there, and they see what to dodge and where to dodge it. It's all like a stream of conscious, though, is the thing. Doing this stuff, it's entirely instinct. You're really not thinking at all about what's happening. Your eyes just see things, and you just press buttons. Or at least that's how it is for me. Yeah. Jeez Louise! Like every second my brain's interpreting the stuff and finding a way to weave between the things, which it did not successfully do right there. So thanks, brain. Thanks a bunch. Why'd I have to be stuck with you? I could have been aboard as Albert Einstein or something. Or Prince William. I wouldn't have to be putting up with this. You think Prince William plays this? He's too busy trying to avoid inviting Garfield to his wedding to Catherine Middleton to be playing Japanese 15-year-old bullet thunder basement radiators shooters. Prince Will's got no time for that. Does Prince William play video games? Does any of the royal family play video games? I know nothing at all about the royal family. So, except that Prince Harry was a Nazi once. Well, he dressed up as a Nazi. Oh, for a fancy dress costume. All of his wacky friends at the Cambridge University, or whatever, one of the two universities that he inevitably went to. Oxford or Cambridge. Whatever they got up to. Nazi Harry. I believe he's in the army now, actually. I think they're all in the army. There's a tradition of British people to join there's a tradition of the British royal family to join the army for some reason. And they do that because traditions. And I guess he's... I don't know. I would imagine that they take some pains to make sure he doesn't get killed. I can't imagine that that's something that they let happen. But, again, I don't know anything. But at least we beat the string-free Tet, and now we're off to see the flower that show. There's nice flowers. The girl lived in the world after death. They were a half of a phantom and human. In that second month, the moon. There's a lot of Japanese games and things that have like weird, poetic, I don't know, sentences like that. In like these sort of title cards, and they've got like 5 different sentences at different parts of the card, and they all sound really flowery and poetic. And they all sound really flowery and poetic, but none of them really ever make any sense. At least not to my infantile little brain of mine. I wouldn't give it up for the world. Oh! Wee! When you've got maximum power, then all the red power squares turn into purple or pink power squares. And that just gives you points instead of power. Don't know what the border bonus is either. Because it's not like you don't ever go back to the start of the checkpoint or anything in this game. You're always continuing immediately where you die, which is just as well, because I can't really imagine them doing something like this. I cannot imagine them doing that in a game like this. I wonder though, Bullet Thunder Basement Radiators, I think Touhou is the most famous example of that kind of game. This series is one of the most famous ones of all. But is it the first? Is it the first type of bullet? Was it the first ever Bullet Thunder Basement Radiators? The first ever game in this series was actually not a bullet shoot 'em up like this at all. It was a very different thing. I know because I played it a few years ago now. It was the first one of these games I ever played. It's actually a very different indeed. It's a puzzle. How do I describe it? It's kind of like Breakout, if you've ever heard of that. The old arcade game Breakout, where you're a little paddle at the bottom of the screen, panging up a ball to hit bricks at the top of the screen. It's like that. Not exactly the same, but you're this Reimu here. You're at the bottom of the screen hitting this ball with a fan to make it bash blocks. Just like Luigi did to get Yoshi and Mama Luigi. When he fell onto a block ledge! And on this one, all the projectiles slow down to give you a chance to actually dodge them. Which is just as well. It's a welcome thing. Because look at this. Look at... Oh, brother. Survived. The first wave, but the... Yeah. The first game was what I described it as being. And then at some point they made either this or... I don't know if this was the first Bullet Thunder Basement Radiators in the series. I think it might have been, because I think Perfect Cherry Blossom's the most famous one. And by that I mean it's the only one that I've heard the name of. So I'm guessing this was the first one to take the series in the direction that it became so famous for, being a direction runner in. And the series never looked back. Except from these occasional spin-offs, like the Mega Man inspired one and the Castlevania one. I think the games are all just this from now on. From this game on, it's just a series of perfect cherry blossoms, basically. And all of them are free as well, to my knowledge. The whole series is completely free. It's quite... I don't know why exactly the creator of this hasn't sold out and commercialised this series, because they surely could do that if they wanted to. All the characters are original, all the music's original, the programming's all original, I assume. Or was this made in some kind of game-making system? I don't know. I won't censor Thunder Basement Radiators that time, or will I? No, I won't. Nobody blooming cares. Why? I don't know why I even bother, but I do. But no, that's staying. Anyway, what am I saying? What am I? Yeah, why has this not been turned into paid games you've got to pay for? Zun could make a killing off of this series, or is Zun one of those extremely few human beings in the world that wouldn't do that? Because, like, there really are so few people like that on this planet that I'm surprised to think it takes a lot for me to be willing to think that that might be what's going on here. Zun just wants to keep this series free for everyone to play. Well, I'm not one to judge anyway. I think that there were actually games like this before Touhou. I think there's a famous arcade game from the 90s called Wrecker or something like that that had a similar thing going on. But I've not seen it to confirm that. So I don't know for sure. Let's see if we can get to stage 6. Because that's going to be the first time I've ever done that on this difficulty level. And I would never have expected that to happen when I'm recording, because I was thinking I was going to do worse than normal while I'm talking, but no. My talking has not had any effect at all. Strangely. If there's any game in the universe that would be like make it hard for you to concentrate while you're commentating, it would be this one, but I am not having that problem at all. Maybe it's because I'm just so scatterbrained that, like, the random nonsense I say, I don't have to think and concentrate to say it. So it doesn't actually make me lose concentration. Or maybe it's because you're so in the zone when you play this game that you don't have to worry about thinking. You're just going with the flow. I don't know. Oh, oh, I don't like the look of that circle. Oh, they're coming from the bottom of the screen this time. I forgot about that. Oh, brother, that came right at me that time. Well, let's see. Got what it takes. Oh. Nope, bomb. Phew, what a close shave that was. Yeah. And again. Oh no, that was the shield I think got used up there. Oh, dear. I don't want to use that bomb, but I don't want to die either. Well, this is all or nothing now. It's all down to this. No bombs. I've got to survive all of this. Oh dear. Oh no, I ran straight into it. And it's all over. A lice. What a tragic. There we are. There I am. Equals, equals, equals. Apostrophe or whatever that is. Is that double quotes? I can't even tell. $P. That's me. That was a second highest score. Although the high score is just the highest score you could get on a single continue. So that was one of my continues got me that score. Right! And there we have it. 76.81% complete. That's the best I've managed to achieve in 2 days. Oh, now. Slowdown rate. 0.19%. I don't know what that even means. Oh, I think maybe there's an option to turn on a slowdown mode in the options menu, which I've not turned on because it said bad things happen. I think it just makes your score... I think it just means your score doesn't get to go in the high score table, which I've said I don't care about, but for some reason I've still not activated it, and I don't plan to. Used 70 bombs, and captured exactly 1 spell card. I don't know what that means. Maybe I should maybe I should find out more about the mechanics of this game. There might still be things I don't know that I should know about how to play this. Maybe. That would help. 27 misses. Does that mean deaths? Oh, whatever. 7. We made it a long way through the game, but we didn't quite have what it takes to get to the very end. Until next time, eh? Till next time, there's Reimu with twigs.